At 6:02 a.m., my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter with a message that read like a bad movie line. Leave now. Don't come in. No emojis. No follow-up. Just those 4 words and a period. From the one person at work who never texted me before 9 days. Ethan Barnes from Risk and Compliance. I stood there in my running shorts, coffee halfway to my mouth, staring at the screen while the kettle hissed behind me. Outside, the street was still dark, the kind of deep blue that makes you feel like the day hasn't decided what it wants to be yet. Inside, my apartment looked exactly like every other weekday morning. Lunch container on the counter, laptop bag by the door, a neatly folded button-down draped over the back of a chair. Nothing looked like an emergency. My phone did. I typed, "Is this a joke?" and erased it. Typed, "What's going on?" and erased that too. Instead, I just hit call. He picked up on the second ring, like he'd been waiting with the phone in his hand. "Michael." His voice was low, flat, the way you talk when someone might be listening. "You got my text?" "Yeah," I said. "What the hell does leave now mean? I'm not even there yet." "Exactly. Don't come in." I heard typing in the background, the muffled hum of the air system from our windowless floor. "You have an 8:30 with Logan and HR, right?" I glanced at the calendar notification on my screen. 8:30 a.m. Check-in RE Q2 performance. It had popped up the day before with a smiley face in the body from our HR partner, Melissa. Casual, friendly, completely normal on the surface. "That's just a check-in," I said. "Logan wanted to talk about timelines. He said it's routine." Ethan went quiet for a second. When he spoke again, the voice was the same, but the words weren't. "It's not a check-in. It's a termination meeting. For cause." The room shifted. Not physically, but the way sound does when someone turns down the volume on everything except your heartbeat. "For cause?" I repeated. "For what?" "For manipulating client data and falsifying reporting," he said. "That's the phrasing in the draft notes. And before you say anything," he exhaled, "I know. That's why I'm calling you instead of pretending I never saw it." I sank into the nearest chair without realizing I'd moved. My coffee sat untouched on the counter, steam disappearing into the empty air between us. "You're sure this isn't—" "Michael," he cut in, and it was the first time I'd ever heard him interrupt anyone. "I'm reading the email chain. Logan and Melissa were workshopping the language last night. Security is on the invite. They're planning to walk you out." My first instinct wasn't anger. It was disbelief, the kind that feels almost polite, like my brain wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt out of habit. I've worked at Northbridge Systems for 7 years, 2 as a data analyst, 5 as a team lead. I've onboarded half the people in our department. I'm the one they send to clients. When something's on fire, because I don't raise my voice, and I don't make promises I can't keep. I'm not perfect. I'm not a saint. But if there's one thing I've never been, it's reckless with the truth. "Okay," I said slowly. "Walk me through this. What exactly did you see?" There was a rustle of paper on his end, then the faint click of a mouse. I pictured him at his desk on the 12th floor. Tie slightly crooked, glasses smudged, 3 empty coffee cups clustered by his keyboard. The man lived in audit trails and system logs. If he said something existed, it existed. "Last night, around 11, I got pulled into a review for the Q2 client dashboards," he said. "Routine spot check. Your department's name is all over the pipeline, so I ran a quick compare between source data and the dashboards that went to the board last week." He paused. "There were discrepancies." "That's not new," I said. "We've had reconciliation issues since we switched CRM systems. These weren't glitches," he replied. "The changes were manual. Someone overwrote data to make the retention numbers look cleaner. It shows as your credentials making the changes. Your login, your workstation ID." I laughed once, short and humorless. "So they're pinning this on me." "They're trying to," he corrected. "The edits were pushed at 1:13 a.m. on a night you weren't even connected to VPN." I checked. You were logged off at 10:05. The system log shows a privilege escalation on your user profile at 1:08 from Logan's admin account. My stomach dropped in a slow, steady way, like an elevator descending. Why would he be in my profile at 1 in the morning? I asked, already knowing the answer. You filed a concern with HR 2 weeks ago, Ethan said. You mentioned feeling pressured to smooth some numbers for the board deck. I could hear the quotation marks in his voice, like he'd read every word. I kept it vague on purpose, I said quietly. I didn't want to start a witch hunt. I wanted it on record. And it is, he said, which is exactly why this is bad for them and good for you. The timeline is ugly. You raise an ethics concern. 2 weeks later, your account magically becomes the one that falsifies reports. Logan writes a termination script. HR invites you to a surprise 8:30 with security in the room. My spoon rattled against the mug when I picked it up. My hand had started to shake. This is insane, I muttered. Melissa looked me in the eye last week and told me they appreciate people who speak up. They appreciate people who speak up until it costs them something, Ethan said. There was no venom in it, just observation. Listen, I don't have a lot of time. I already pulled the full log set and the email chain. I've sent them to our HR director and copied corporate compliance. They're going to have to escalate this above Logan, probably straight to the CFO. You did that already? I asked. 5 minutes ago, he said. That's why I texted you. If you walk into that meeting before they react, you're letting them control the narrative. Stay home. Don't answer any invites that aren't in writing. Let the people with bigger job titles than mine panic for a bit. I rubbed my face with my free hand, feeling the roughness of stubble, the tacky edge of sleep still clinging to my eyes. Today was supposed to be normal. Drop into the office, run the weekly sync with my team, argue about timelines, maybe order Thai for lunch if we survive the morning without a fire drill. Instead, I was contemplating not showing up to my own execution. What if HR doesn't care? I asked. What if they see your log, shrug, and decide it's easier to cut me loose anyway? Then you'll at least have a clear record of what happened, he said, and I'll have a paper trail showing I raised the flag. But trust me, finance hates surprises. Our CFO isn't going to sit on a potential fraud issue just to protect a mid-level director with a good jawline. Despite everything, that made me snort. Logan did have a good jawline. Strong, photogenic, the kind of face that looked right at home in the leadership section of our website. When he'd arrived 6 months ago, he'd brought with him a new vocabulary. Optics, momentum, narrative. The kind of words that sound smart when you're not the one bending numbers to match them. Michael, Ethan said, drawing me back, I know you don't like drama. I know your instinct is to be reasonable and show up and talk it through. I've watched you do it for years. This isn't that. This is them loading a script and hoping you stand in the right spot to take the hit. I stared at the little red notification next to my calendar app. 8:30 a.m. Check-in, a Q2 performance. I remembered sitting in that glass HR room 3 weeks ago, hands clasped, explaining to Melissa that I was uncomfortable being asked to massage projections. She'd nodded in all the right places, offered me a bottle of water, and said the words every employee wants to hear. Thank you for trusting us with this. Trust is funny. When you're giving it, it feels like safety. When you realize it's been misplaced, it feels like standing barefoot in a parking lot in January, holding a key that doesn't open anything. Okay, I said finally. I won't go in. Good, Ethan replied, and I could hear the tiny exhale of relief he didn't say out loud. I'm sending you a summary of what I pulled. Don't forward it. Don't respond to anything verbally. If HR calls, let it go to voicemail. When they email, they will answer calmly and ask to reschedule once you've had a chance to review new information that's come to light. You sound like legal, I said. They're looped in, he replied, or they will be in about 30 seconds. A new email pinged at the top of my phone screen while we were still on the call. From Ethan. Subject line, REQ2 dashboard. access log anomalies. FYI. Below it, another notification slid in, this one from HR Director Corporate, a woman whose name I'd seen only in org charts. My 8:30 invite blinked quietly on my calendar, still smiling. I ended the call with Ethan, set the phone down next to my untouched coffee, and sat there in the half-light of my kitchen, while the day I thought I was going to have quietly dissolved around me. But that was just the beginning. I stayed at the kitchen table longer than I should have, watching the light in the room shift from blue to gray, trying to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, everyone was overreacting. That HR would see Ethan's logs, call a timeout, and the worst part of my morning would be explaining why I missed an 8:30 meeting. But the first email came in at 7:14 a.m. Hi, Michael, Apiccia. Confirming attendance for our 8:30 discussion. Please acknowledge receipt. No mention of rescheduling. No mention of new information. Just a polite nudge toward the guillotine. I didn't reply. Instead, I read the email 3 times, paying attention to the microtone. Too polished. Too careful. Like someone who'd been told to stick to the script and not deviate a centimeter. At 7:21, another email arrived. Hi, Michael, we haven't heard back. Please confirm. Thank you. The exclamation mark landed like a threat in a sundress. I stared at the screen, imagining Melissa at her desk, trying to sound breezy while checking her pulse. She knew something had shifted. She just didn't know what. I took a slow breath and typed exactly what Ethan told me to. Hi, Melissa. I've received new information this morning that I need to review before our discussion. I'll reach out to reschedule once I've had adequate time to prepare. I reread it. No emotion, no apology, no explanation, nothing they could twist. I hit send. Seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared in the chat window of our internal messaging app, something Melissa never used for anything serious. Hi, can you hop on a quick call? Of course she wanted a call. Calls aren't recorded. Calls can be reframed later as he sounded confused or he admitted concern. Calls favor whoever holds the power. I didn't answer. Instead, I closed the laptop, walked to the window, and pressed my forehead lightly against the cool glass. People were walking their dogs. A kid on a bike wobbled down the sidewalk. A woman in scrubs hustled toward her car with a travel mug. The world looked normal. My job wasn't. At 7:32, Ethan texted again. They're scrambling. HR Director replied all. CFO added to chain. Logan has gone silent. A small, sharp satisfaction flickered in my chest. Not victory, just the brief relief of not being insane. I called Ethan. They're trying to reach me, I said. Good, he answered. Don't pick up. What's happening on your end? He hesitated. Logan replied to the CFO 5 minutes ago. He's framing this as a miscommunication during a high-pressure reporting cycle. He's implying you're unstable and misunderstood something. My jaw clenched. Unstable. He used the phrase emotionally reactive. I almost laughed. Anyone who knew me would describe me as calm to a fault. I've been told I sound like I'm reading bedtime stories when I'm angry. Logan knew that. He was trying to load the gun. What did the CFO say? I asked. Nothing yet? Ethan answered. But his assistant is already pulling access logs from my folder. He's looking. I imagined Logan in his office, perfectly tailored shirt sleeves, tapping his pen, telling himself he could still spin this. He always thought he could talk his way out of anything. He believed confidence was a substitute for evidence. Then at 7:46, a company-wide calendar invite hit my inbox. Urgent, department review, 11 OM, all leads, directors, and corporate compliance. I hadn't been invited to something like that since the pandemic pivot years ago. I opened the invite. No description, no agenda, just names. 2 legal counsels included, 1 VP, and the CFO, not Logan. I texted Ethan, Is this related? 10 seconds later, Yes, he's being cut out of the loop. Something warm uncoiled in my chest, not joy, something closer to being able to breathe for the first time since waking up. And then another email came in, this one private, from HR Director. Subject: Acknowledgement of concerns. Michael, thank you for your message this morning. We understand you may have received unexpected information. Please be assured we're reviewing relevant materials. We'll be in touch shortly. In the meantime, do not come on site. That line hit me harder than anything else. Do not come on site. Not, we'd like to reschedule. Not, let's connect later. A directive. They weren't protecting Logan anymore. They were protecting themselves from the fallout of whatever they were beginning to see. I sat back down at the table, letting the chair legs scrape against the floor, feeling a heat rise in my chest that wasn't panic anymore. It was irritation. Deep, steady, overdue irritation at Logan, at HR, at myself for thinking any of them would look out for me just because I'd always played by the rules. My work phone rang. I let it ring out. A voicemail icon appeared, then another, and another. HR, block number, HR. I didn't listen to any of them. At 8:03, Ethan called again. You're about to get another email. Don't freak out. Before I could ask, the notification popped up. From CFO's office. Subject: Request for documentation. I opened it. It was short. Too short. Michael, please gather any correspondence, directives, or notes related to Q2 reporting and any conversations regarding modifications to client data. A secure upload link will follow. My pulse kicked up. Why me? I asked Ethan. Because, he said, you're now the one person in this mess who didn't lie, panic, or try to cover their ass. And they can see it. I swallowed, throat dry. So what's Logan doing? I asked. Ethan exhaled slowly. Trying to get ahead of it. I think he assumed you'd come in today and they'd pin it on you before the logs caught up. But I didn't. No, Ethan said. And that's why things just shifted. Hard. I walked back to the table, opened my personal notebook, and flipped to the page where I'd written the date of the day. Logan first asked me to adjust the retention projections. I remembered the way he'd leaned against my cubicle wall, voice low, eyes bright, not excited, but hungry. It doesn't have to be a big change, he'd said, just enough to show the board we're trending up. Optics matter. I remembered the way my stomach tightened, the way I'd said, I'm not comfortable altering numbers. We present what's true. And the way he'd smiled like I was a child, refusing to eat broccoli. Don't be dramatic, Michael. It's all true. We're just presenting the best version. I closed the notebook. At 8:17, another email arrived. Hi, Michael. Given the evolving information, we're placing all related meetings on hold. Please remain available by email only. No apology, no acknowledgement, no explanation, just fear behind formal language. I leaned back, let out a slow breath, and felt something in me settle. Like a weight had shifted from one side of my chest to the other. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt steady. I didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost them everything. And then silence, the kind that means something's gone wrong. Not the comfortable silence of a quiet morning. This was the brittle, electrical kind. The kind that feels like someone somewhere just pulled a fire alarm, but no one wants to admit they heard it. My inbox stayed frozen for almost 15 minutes. No pings, no reminders, no calendar nudges cloaked in cheerful punctuation. Nothing. Then at 9:02, a single line appeared in my Teams chat from a senior HR coordinator I'd never directly spoken to. Michael, please refrain from joining any team meetings today. No explanation, no context, just an instruction with the urgency stripped out. It read like someone trying to speak calmly while holding a door shut against something heavy on the other side. I typed nothing back. A few minutes later, I opened my personal laptop instead of my work one. It felt symbolic. My work machine suddenly looked more like evidence than a tool. The next half hour moved strangely fast and slow at the same time. I watched the notifications as if through glass. 9 instants. All leads. Your 11th meeting is now mandatory. Cameras on. 9:21. Legal counsel added to email chains I wasn't part of. 9:26. A message in the general company Slack channel. Please expect limited access to reporting tools this morning due to urgent maintenance. Urgent maintenance. Excellent comedy. My phone buzzed. This time it wasn't HR or Ethan or a number I didn't recognize. It was someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Clara, a senior analyst who'd left our team because she couldn't deal with the culture shift. She'd once described working under Logan as being coached by a man who thinks sincerity is a performance issue. Her text was short. Did you hear? Logan is losing it. I called her instantly. What does losing it mean? I mean he's actually pacing, she whispered, as if speaking normally might alert him through walls. He shut his office door, then opened it, then shut it again. He keeps checking the hallway. People are pretending not to look. Does he know? I asked. Everyone knows, she said. The CFO asked for access logs. The CFO never asks for access logs unless someone is in trouble, and that someone isn't the CFO. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. What about HR? Melissa looks like she's about to throw up. Her door's closed. She's been on calls nonstop. I thanked her and hung up. For a second, I let myself feel something I hadn't allowed since all of this started. Anger. Clean, sharp anger. Not the messy, shouting kind. The kind that grows when you realize how many people were willing to watch you burn because it was convenient. At 9:40, a new email dropped into my inbox. From Corporate Compliance. Subject, follow-up interview, request for availability. I opened it. Michael, due to new findings, will need to speak with you today. Please confirm availability between 11:30 and 2. No accusations, no tone, no presumption of guilt, just formality, with edges. I confirmed 12 At 9:52, my phone lit up with a call I recognized. Logan's number. I didn't answer. He tried again, and again. On the fourth attempt, a voicemail came through. I didn't listen to it. I didn't need to. I knew the script. I'd seen him use it on others. This is all a misunderstanding. We just need to talk like adults. You're taking this too personally. You're overreacting. The optics aren't good for you if you keep ignoring me. He always escalated through the 5 stages of manipulation like he was following a training manual. My phone buzzed again, this time a text. Call me. Now. Let's clean this up before it gets messy. I stared at the screen, feeling something inside me harden. I wasn't his employee anymore. I wasn't his shield. I wasn't his quiet fixer who stayed late to correct the numbers he didn't want to explain. I typed back one sentence. There's nothing to clean up on my end. I didn't send it. I deleted it. Silence was stronger. At 10:05, Ethan called. Brace yourself, he said. Logan just tried to claim you gave him verbal approval to use your credentials for after-hours corrections. I laughed. Actually laughed. A short, dry sound. He's panicking, Ethan said. He can't explain the 1:13 a.m. edits without tying himself to them, so he's trying to drag you into the circle. He's not dragging me anywhere. That's why this gets interesting, he replied. Compliance has already matched the keycard logs. He wasn't even in the office at 1 a.m. He logged in remotely from his girlfriend's apartment. That hit me like quiet justice. Perfect, cold, unarguable. Michael, Ethan added, his voice lowering a notch, they're moving fast. I think the CFO is stepping in personally. And then, as if cued by a stagehand, another email appeared. From CFO's office subject. Immediate clarification required. Michael, we may need additional details from you during the 11 NOS meeting. Please remain reachable. During the 11 NOS meeting, meaning I was no longer the defendant. I was a witness. A calm started spreading through me, the kind that almost felt inappropriate, like floating above the chaos instead of drowning in it. At 10:28, Logan tried one more time, a final text. Let's be smart about this. You don't want to start something you can't control. I stared at it for a long second, then placed the phone face down on the table. Control. It hit me almost gently, that he truly believed he still had it. That was my micro-catharsis, the quiet realization that he couldn't threaten me anymore, because the truth no longer needed my cooperation to reach the right people. At 10:55, 5 minutes before the all-hands-lead meeting, Ethan called again. "They removed Logan from the attendee list," he said. "He's locked out of the dashboard servers. He's locked out of the admin panel. Someone from IT just walked into his office." "What does that mean?" "It means," Ethan said, "the story is no longer his." The next notification hit at 10:57, a meeting update. Attendees: CFO Corporate Compliance Lead, General Counsel HR Director, all team leads. Absent: Logan Pierce, Director of Analytics. I felt my heartbeat steady itself in my chest. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. That night, I stopped being the hero. Not the savior, not the good employee, not the silent worker who absorbs damage so others don't have to. Something in me softened and hardened at the same time, like metal cooled after being bent too long. But before the night came, there was the storm. At 11 a.m., I joined the meeting. Camera on, microphone muted, posture straight. The screen filled with faces you don't normally see in a single call, unless something has gone catastrophically wrong, or someone has been caught. The CFO was square in the center tile. He wasn't smiling. The general counsel sat still, hands folded. Compliance looked like someone who'd slept 2 hours. HR director looked younger, much younger than she had in her profile picture, as if responsibility had suddenly doubled her gravity. "Thank you for joining," the CFO began. His voice was calm, not polite. "We'll keep this concise." A slide popped up, not about performance, not Q2, not projections. Access logs. Next slide, the change history for the client dashboards. Next, a timeline. My name, Logan's admin ID, the 1:13 a.m. edits, the privilege escalation, my VPN logout. They didn't say the word fraud. They didn't have to. "We have enough to proceed with an internal investigation," the CFO said. "Effective immediately, Director Pierce has been placed on administrative leave pending review." A ripple of shock crossed the gallery of faces, but nobody dared to react out loud. HR Director spoke next, reading from something clearly prepared under pressure. "We want to acknowledge that concerns were raised regarding data manipulation. Those concerns appear to have been mishandled." Mishandled, a corporate word meaning we know exactly who screwed up and we're about to remove them quietly. Then the CFO looked directly at me. "Michael, you'll receive a separate invitation shortly. We'd like to speak with you today." He didn't thank me. He didn't praise me. He didn't wrap it in soft nonsense. He simply recognized my existence in a way that mattered far more. When the meeting ended, I sat there staring at my reflection in the black screen. Same face, same eyes, but something was gone. A weight I'd been carrying so long, I'd forgotten it wasn't supposed to be there. At 12 after, I joined the private meeting. Compliance asked orderly questions. Legal took notes. HR director looked like she was trying not to make direct eye contact with anyone. I answered calmly, factually, without emotion, without embellishment. No dramatics, no moral monologue, just truth. Truth is heavier than it sounds when spoken plainly. At one point, the HR director cleared her throat and said, "For what it's worth, Michael, I'm sorry you weren't taken seriously when you raised your concern." It wasn't enough. It wasn't meant to be. It was a sentence she had to say for professional reasons, not moral ones. But it landed somewhere deep, not because of what she said, but because I finally didn't need anything from her anymore. After 2 hours, they dismissed me with instructions to remain available. I wasn't nervous, not anymore. Around 4:30, the final piece of the day arrived. An email from the CFO's office. Subject: Next steps. I opened it. "Michael, thank you for your cooperation today. After reviewing the materials, we'd like to discuss your future at Northbridge. Please join a brief call at 5 in Naus. Future. Not termination, not suspension, not pending. Future." At 5 Gafal, we joined the call. CFO, HR director, legal, me. The CFO didn't waste time. We failed you, he said, and we're addressing that. We'd like to offer a retention package, a compensation adjustment, and a promotion to senior manager effective immediately, should you choose to accept. My first instinct was the instinct of the old me, the dutiful one, to nod, to agree, to be grateful for the rescue. But then something inside me answered instead. I appreciate the offer, I said, but I won't be staying. They froze. Even the CFO's eyebrows twitched. He leaned forward slightly. May I ask why? Because, I said gently, I don't trust the foundation anymore, and I don't want to rebuild on a floor that almost dropped out from under me. A silence followed. Not offended, not angry, just accepting. The CFO nodded once. I respect that. What can we do to support your transition? And that was it. My micro-catharsis. Not the offer. Not the apology. But the moment they realized I wasn't staying to be their repaired toy. I requested a clean letter of recommendation, a severance package reflecting my tenure, and assistance with job placement in partner companies. They agreed to all of it without hesitation. At 5:22 p.m., the call ended. At 5:23, my phone buzzed. Ethan, you good? He asked. I'm better than good, I said. I'm done. He exhaled like he'd been holding it for hours. I figured. Logan was escorted out by 2 HR reps 20 minutes ago. Escorted? I asked. He was yelling, something about sabotage. None of it stuck. What about Melissa? She's being transferred. You know what that means. I did. Justice in corporations doesn't arrive with trumpets. It arrives quietly, like someone removing a faulty part from an engine so the whole thing doesn't explode. That night, after everything settled, I walked around my apartment without turning on the lights, just letting the dim street lamp glow spill across the walls. It felt different, bigger, mine again. I made dinner, simple, quiet. No Slack pings, no calendar alerts, no fear that tomorrow someone would try to rewrite my name into a story I didn't author. I slept deeply for the first time in weeks. 2 months later, I accepted an offer from a smaller tech firm. Higher pay, saner hours, a director who believes numbers are something you reflect, not invent. The culture feels honest, not perfect, but honest is enough. Sometimes I still think about that morning, the kettle, the dark sky, the cold floor. Ethan's text, lighting up my phone like a warning flare. Leave now! And I did. Leaving didn't save me. It revealed who was worth trusting and who never was. Now I wake up without bracing for impact. I drink my coffee at my own pace. I answer messages from people who mean what they say. In the end, I didn't win a battle. I didn't triumph over a villain. I didn't prove anything to anyone. I just walked away from a place that tried to bury me and let the ground crumble behind me instead.